Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, 2 wins in a row, 6 goals scored, no goals conceded. Boy, I love talking to you, Dan, especially when we win games.
Yeah, it feels a lot better, doesn't it, mate? It feels a lot better. Just got so much to unpack from today. All positives, which is not always the case. Usually, when we got a lot to say, it's quite the contrary. But no, mate, absolutely beaming, buzzing with the performance. Yeah, a lot to unpack, mate. And yeah, as I said, all of it will put a smile on our faces.
Absolutely. But guys, before we get into everything, first of all, I want to encourage as many of you as possible to hit the subscribe button because we've been slowing down on subscribers recently. It happens when Villa lose games, but we've won 2 in a row now. You've got no excuses. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss a podcast from Dan and I. With that out of the way, first of all, guys, we do have a message from today's video sponsor. Dan, have you ever wanted an app that collates all the scores and news from your favourite teams in the whole of Europe, Dan? Have you ever wanted that?
Is a constant need of mine, mate, because there's always news. That's the thing, is that we love this game. We love the industry of football because it's ever changing, mate, and you need a place to keep up with it all.
And we have that place exactly for
We
you
sure
guys.
do, mate.
It's One Football. Guys, this app is genuinely, it's life-changing.
It's great because I actually I use it. So it's great because it's where I pull the stats from for the podcast. So it's like there's all that new stuff as well, but you can track all of the players' stats from like across Europe for all the different leagues, for continental football as well. It's a dream. It's a dream. And the best part, mate, is it's free.
It's free, and guys, it would help support the channel massively if you check that One Football using the link in the description down below. We promise you guys won't be disappointed. There we go. So, guys, if you haven't checked out One Football, make sure you do so by using the top link in the description. Loads of fantastic content, especially today around that win, isn't there, Dan? I was checking One Football on the way back to my parents' house. I know that for sure. Now that is out of the way, wow, it feels mad. I can't remember the last time, Dan, Villa have won a game by 4 goals. I mean, especially with fans. I want to caveat, of course, everyone remembers the Liverpool game, the infamous lockdown, takedown of Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool last season. But do you know what, as well? The atmosphere was a bit strange today. I'm going to start off with that. It was a bit of a weird one, weren't it, mate? I don't know what your thoughts were or what you were seeing from the Trinity. I thought it was a bit of a weird one. I know for a few of the goals, we kind of didn't know if it was offside or not, or if there was a foul in the build-up or whatever. But I don't know. It just didn't feel like we won 4-0.
I think
Was it shock?
yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Is that it's obviously. Yeah, mate, we have actually won 6-0 this season. You would be forgetting about that massive clash with Barrow, wouldn't you?
Oh, God, of course. Of course. The mighty Barrow and
Who could
Inverness.
forget? Yeah, that was the last team Villa put to the sword, mate. Yeah, I mean, you referenced the game with Liverpool, and it's not often we see Villa win by this margin. I remember that Liverpool game, just sort of feeling it all felt a bit surreal.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just not something we're accustomed to, but hopefully this is the start of a trend, mate, and we get a bit used to seeing so many goals going at Villa Park. But yeah, it got there in the end. There was some good noise going around Villa Park. And yeah, I think it was just nice to feel a positive atmosphere again, wasn't it? Really, mate. I think it was helped by the early goal, which I think really I don't think today happens if we didn't score that early on in the game. It's amazing how the atmosphere changes at Villa Park, isn't it? Once we get a goal inside, 20 minutes, it really lifts the place. It always gets a bit angst, doesn't it? Whoever we're playing against, the longer it goes on without a goal. And to score after just 9 minutes really, put the champagne on ice, and it was smooth sailing from there, wasn't it?
It was, mate. It's the perfect way to start the game. But, I hate to do this, Dan. I hate for us to sit here and say, look at us, we were right. But what did we say in the preview, Dan? Nullify the fullbacks, overload the midfield, and Aston Villa will win this game. And that is exactly what happened. We'll get into that a bit later on. But, and again, I'm going to sit here and say we got that right. But we have to sometimes sit here and put our hands up when we get it wrong, Dan. It looks like Danny Ings and Ollie Watkins can play together. And listen, that's something I'm happy to eat humble pie about. It looked like for the longest time it wasn't working. But the thing that was, the glue that was missing to link these two wonderful strikers together was just a little guy called Phil, wasn't it? That's the only thing that was missing. That little adjustment, having Phil play as a 10 rather than just off the left in that sort of 2-10 position that we'd seen towards the start. And boy, Villa looked so much better for it, Dan. If you look at the first goal, the pass from Phil to Danny sets it all up, and then it's a wonderful little slide draw pass in behind Stevens that kind of releases Ollie, and it's a wonderful spin out, and he takes it so well. And Fraser Forster's unlucky because he does get a bit of a fingertip to it, but there was no saving that one, mate. Ollie Watkins hit that with some conviction, but the build-up play, everything about that goal, as you said, mate, it coming early on, it was just at the right time for Villa to really, kick on in this game. It was wonderful, and as I say, I'm more than happy to sit here and eat humble pie about it not working, because it feels like the formation that we may have stumbled upon, if we're being honest, just could get the best out of the two expensive strikers we have and the absolute star that we've got on loan from Barcelona, mate.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. I would still, like to say that I would maintain that in the old, the traditional sort of 4-3-3, 4-3-2-1, whatever you want to call it, I would still say that they don't really work. I think whenever you want having to play one of those guys out wide, it's always going to be difficult. But with them both playing in a sort of more traditional front two, with a sort of a bank of four behind them, with Coutinho sort of drifting in behind, it works really, really well. The two of them are fantastic strikers. Mate, we've always said is that there's no way that strikers this good. One of the things I said the whole time is that I don't believe there are players in the Premier League that can only play in a one or only play in a two. They've always been capable of it. It just didn't really feel right when you were shunting one of them out to the wing. It's no surprise when you give them a chance to operate as a more traditional front two that it all comes together. And you're right, mate. It's all by Philippe Coutinho, who just seems to sparkle every time he steps out at Villa Park. Some of the stats from his game today are just ludicrous. 100% completion on both his final third passes and his long balls. 91% pass accuracy overall. 4 shots, 2 successful take-ons, 2 chances created, 1 goal, 1 assist. All of that is crazy, mate. 1 goal and 1 assist. Another all-round performance from him. But the one thing that I think, honestly, impressed me just as much as the 5 ball recoveries. He works so hard. He feels so rejuvenated, like he's totally come back to life. Stevie referenced this in his post-game presser, saying that this is what he was like at Liverpool when he's in this mood. He is a world-class player. And it feels like that, doesn't it, mate? It feels like you still pinch yourself when you're watching him. It still feels like this aura of magic and expectation whenever he gets on the ball. It does feel like something that I'm not sure I'll ever get used to. I'll see a lot of calls from the fan base to get this permanent deal done. Which I would absolutely love to see. It's something that I think we will do. It's easy to forget that he's still in his 20s, still at 29. He hasn't yet crossed that barrier into 30. And I think what's really nice, mate, is that I was thinking about this earlier, is that if you do sign Coutinho, you can have him at this level for another 2-3 years or so, something like that, and then you've got someone like Emi Buendia, who's a very similar kind of player who can sort of be a sponge, learn from him, take everything on board, and sort of you have a very natural transition, I think, as Coutinho gets into his sort of early to mid 30s and begins to fade. You've got Buendia who can take that mantle. So I think a permanent deal really suits those boys.
I hope so, mate. Honestly, it's just ridiculous. 5 passes in the final third, 3 passes into the box, 2 big chances created, an assist, a goal. What more can you ask for? To be fair, could have had a hattie. I'm not going to sit here and complain about the chances that he didn't take, because he was stunning. And, I think for us, mate, for the longest time, we've maintained the best player that we've watched at Villa Park is a certain Joe Grealish, but there's just levels to this game, mate. Like Philippe Coutinho is a joke. We're watching one of the greatest in his position, and it's such a rare position now, isn't it? That number 10, it's a dying art form. We saw how hard James fell off after a bright start at Everton. So to have somebody as good as he is, pulling the strings, doing what he does, it's incredible. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever get over seeing this little guy donning the claret and blue. But not only the thing is, Dan, it almost feels like Coutinho is too good for us, because there are passes and there are runs he makes, or balls he looks to play, or all sorts that he attempts, and you can just tell that our players just aren't quite on the same wavelength just yet. Like, there's a few passes that and I'm not digging anyone out here, but like a JJ or a McGinn will take a really heavy touch, or they don't quite see the run or whatever, and we're just not used to that kind of quality on the pitch, are we really? Like, and for me, it says a lot when you've got Watkins saying this as well. To quote Ollie, he's too sharp. He thinks he's quicker. He thinks quicker than anyone else. I can't speak highly enough of him. It's a joy to play with him and Ingsy. Hopefully, we can do this more often to teams. Yeah, please do, Ollie. Please do. We want to watch you guys dismantle Premier League defences. It's magical to watch. But a performance like this, Dan, now, when Stevie first came in, it really felt like we were building towards something. Things were really positive. The losses that we had against like City and Liverpool, they didn't feel like they were for nothing. There were strong performances behind them losses. And even with the loss away to Manchester United and then the draw in the league a few days later, it really felt like we were on the cusp of something really good. And of course, you draw to Leeds and you lose 2 games back to back with Newcastle and Watford, and rightfully so. We're all doom and gloom and all this kind of stuff. But before then, mate, I was saying, and people can go and listen to the whole podcast. I was saying a scoreline like this was so close. We were knocking on the door for a thrashing, and it came. And what really impressed me about today, mate, is seeing Dougie in the goals, because again, he's someone, he hasn't had the best time recently. It's always nice to see him score. Danny Ings scores as well, and totally vindicates our support for him. It was a wonderful game, Dan, wasn't it? It was for everybody involved. And I want to give a special shout out to Callum Chambers as well, because he was bloody phenomenal. He was. I'm going to try not to swear, because I know someone mentioned that we swore in the last podcast, and we don't do it often, and the comment did reference it to this. So they said they felt like it added much more emphasis. But we like the Villa filler to be for everybody. So I'm going to try not to swear, because I know there are a lot of children who do listen. But Chambers was fantastic. It won all 3 of his aerial duels. He had 65% pass accuracy. It did feel like a lot of the time his default setting was hoofball, but he got rid of the danger, and for me, that's what's really important. 55 touches. Made a key pass, which was absolutely phenomenal, mate, with the outside of his left boot.
Yes.
I made that exact pass 3 weeks ago at Monday Night Football. I just have to mention this on the podcast. Unfortunately, we didn't have the quality of finishers that Aston Villa have, so it didn't go down as an assist. But that was straight out of the Danny Drinkmorgan playbook. So fair play, Callum. I thought he was fantastic, and again, I think back to when we did that live stream, mate, and I think we were intrigued and excited, and I think very open to this deal. And I'm just glad to see that he's proven his worth, because for someone who's coming in on a free transfer, obviously we don't really know what's happened with Esri, whether that's injury, illness, COVID, whatever. The club have kept really quiet on him and Luca. But to have him come in, as understudy, and twice now he's really impressed me. I've got to give him a shout out, mate, because I think a lot of people may have wrote this off before he'd even stepped foot on the grass for us. And you can understand he's not played a lot and he's been injury prone and all this kind of stuff. But shout out to Callum, man.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. I felt like he had a bit of a baptism of fire at the Villa. Do you know what I mean? He was chucked in a difficult period for the club. Obviously, the game at Newcastle, he's the one that gives away the free kick and everything like that. So it wasn't the easiest of starts for him. But yeah, mate, honestly, again, very similar to the game against Brighton. There was a little bit of I don't want to say meltdown, but worry when the lineup came out, and everyone was sort of like, okay, where are these guys? Yeah, it's very interesting to see that. Perhaps that's all Stevie needs to do. Name
Yeah.
and complete lineups at the end of the season. As soon as we actually have a full team out, it doesn't seem to work for some reason. But no, it was both of the lads that came in, Chambers and Ashley did well. That is an unbelievable ball from Chambers, and I think that goes to show that perhaps he does have that quality to step higher up the pitch, be that as a fullback or as a defensive midfielder. He's got those ball playing abilities that we saw in that moment. It's incredible to see that he's got that in his locker, and I don't suppose there are actually too many players at the club that can pull that ball off. If Coutinho had played that pass, then I think we'd be waxing lyrical about it for some time to come. It's amazing that it's come from this this centre back slash fullback slash midfielder in Callum Chambers, and considering that centre half is one of the positions which he's perhaps had the least experience in. I thought he looked very accomplished there, and I thought he did Ezri Konsa some real justice. I don't think it felt like we missed much at all, to be honest with you, in that position. I don't think it was quite a perfect defensive performance. I think that had we faced an opposition which were playing a little bit better on the day, I think we probably would have conceded. I think it didn't really feel like we were solid as a rock back there. I'm not going to say that we were lucky to come away with the clean sheet, but as I said, I felt like Southampton did make some good chances. Martinez has to make a couple of good saves, one in particular from Che Adams. But yeah, I mean, on the whole, it's a very good performance from all in the back line, to be honest with you, especially from the boys that came in.
It is, and we have to shout out the midfield. I've got the average positions up here. Again, as we mentioned in the preview, it's really important that you suffocate a midfield too as capable as James Ward-Prowse and Oriol Romeu. And I mean, Romeu shouldn't have even been on the pitch, but that's a complete other story, isn't it, mate? But as you guys will be able to see here, look how compact that midfield diamond is. They're so close together. They were closing space. They really were pressuring Ward-Prowse and Romeu on a completely different level, and really isolated them. And you'll be able to see as well you'll be able to see the Southampton average positions just next to it in blue, guys, as well. You'll be able to see number 15 and 21, both the fullbacks, Tino Livramento, and I forget the name of the left back. He's a French lad, begins with a P. Perrault. Awful game from him, I've got to say, mate.
Yes,
he did not have a nice time. Matty Cash had him on toast all day long. But you can see how, again, the trend is there. Villa's fullback sat a little bit deeper yet again, to be expected with Ashley Young, because he hasn't got the legs to be running up and down that left-hand side all day long. But the same from Kashi as well, both sitting a little bit deeper, not conceding that space to the fullbacks, which we highlighted. They're so dangerous. Kyle Walker-Peters didn't start, but he came on. And to be fair, when he did, mate, caused a little bit of trouble down that side, which was to be expected. But after the FA Cup game, that's probably why he didn't start. But as well, look at, if you guys will be able to see how narrow both Bednarek and Stevens were. Now, of course, they're missing Salisu, which is someone who you name dropped in the preview, Dan, having a fantastic season. Really good defender. I don't think he's out for long. Not that matters now anyway, now the game's out of the way. But they defended so narrow, and they were often so exposed by the midfield and the fullbacks, because I think the fullbacks were just looking to constantly try and penetrate behind ours, and it just never worked from how we set up, and again how we suffocated the midfield. I'm repeating myself, but that's how Villa won this game. And even Coutinho as well, man. I'm just gonna bring up his sort of heat map. Oh, I've done it again. I've ruined the screen stream. You guys will be able to see me editing this in real time. You guys, I've got Coutinho's heat map up here, right? You can see the kind of positions that he was occupying. Of course, the majority of the red was in the final third, but you can see the touches this guy was having. He's dropping deep to receive the ball. It takes pressure off the other midfielders as well to create when you have somebody who's willing to do that and then look at driving the team forward. It was a masterclass from Phil. It really was. And I just hope that we get this done permanently, mate, because the more I watch him, the more I fall in love. And after Snodgrass, after Tammy, I said I wouldn't fall in love with lone players, but here we are again catching feels, mate.
Yeah, it's not that easy, mate. It's not that easy. Very easy to say. But no, Phil feels like the glue in this team. And as I said, it is lovely having a guy like Buendia on the bench, and it still feels harsh to have him there. But what an option that is to come on, and with when Leon is back to his best. And I thought Sanson came on and gave a nice cameo actually today. So yeah, I mean, the thing is I think when you look at this Villa team now, we're starting to see signs of what this can be like when it's working at full throttle. And I think you look at the next game against Leeds, and that's winnable given how we're playing at the moment, and given that Leeds still haven't got it figured out. That won't be an easy game. Obviously, it never is against Leeds, even at the worst times for them, as we saw. Even Bielsa's dying days, that we made a real meal of that fixture. Um, and it's Jesse Marsh's first home game at Ellen Road, so we're going to be one of those where it's going to be very difficult to go and play in that atmosphere. But suddenly, the table is starting to read in our favour again. We've got 2 games in hand on Palace, who sit one place above us in 10th. We're actually on the same amount of points, so you'd expect that we leapfrog those once we get those games in hand out of the way. You've then got Southampton in 9th, who we beat today. You've then got Wolves in 8th, who are in like free fall at the moment. They're losing a lot of games, and all of a sudden it's looking like that finish, not obviously not saying Europe or anything like that, but just the top half feels on again. And it really felt like we were resigned to sort of a 12th 13th place finish just a few weeks ago. And I said it a couple of weeks ago, mate. It's like all you got to do is win a couple of games in this league and everything changes, because I can't remember a season where everybody, bar the top 2 teams in the league, has been so inconsistent.
Yeah.
It feels like consistency is an issue for most teams in the league right now. Even if as you start to get up to those European spots, I was talking about Wolves, who have just, as I said, seem to have fallen off a cliff recently. That's 3 defeats in a row. Spurs above them. I mean, God knows what's going on with them at the moment. Arsenal are the same. Southampton showed today that it's a league where most sides are struggling for consistency, unless you're the two that are battling it out for the title. And even then, City have wobbled a little bit recently. So it just goes to show, if you can buck that trend, if you can be the team that puts a run of 2 or 3 games together, as it looks like we can do, everything can change. Everything can change. And because of that inconsistency, the run of tough games that we've got coming up starts to look a little bit different. You look at Wolves, as I said, they're on the 3 games in a row. We play them in 3 games' time. Spurs as well. You never know what you're going to get from one week to the next. Arsenal, I think I would put in that bracket as well. They're in a decent vein of form at the moment. But with every game, they can win 5 games in a row and then lose 5, and they're back into that crisis again. That's the way this game goes. And it's like, if Villa can be the one to put a run of games together now, and it feels like we're peaking potentially at the right time, we could be back to making this season look pretty handsome overall, I think, mate.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really good note to end on. Before we do go, XG Villa, I haven't got it up, but from the dome, I think it was 2.3 to 1.02. Which is nice. Fantastic that we managed to score 4 from an XG of that. Of course, the sort of Meg's deflection goal from Coutinho probably doesn't count for a lot, because that's just sublime and just exceeded XG quite clearly. But guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, let us know by hitting a like. Comment your thoughts below on the performance. We'd love to hear it. And as well, let us know if you're going to Leeds, because Leeds is next. It's on a Thursday night. Let us know if you're going. And subscribe if you aren't already. It would mean the world to us. So yeah, up the Villa.